Welcome, everybody, to another interview on Our Lady Live. Today, we are lucky to be joined by our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade religion teacher, Miss Sonja Russell. Miss Russell, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're hanging in there. It's another e-learning day. We're getting closer, but we're not quite to the end of it yet. But I know everybody will be quite happy, both teachers and students, when we get there, right?
Yes, I'm sure.
Well, thanks for coming on. I think this is our first middle school interview. We've talked to a lot of other people, but those have been down in the early primary years. But if you would, for those who don't know you, maybe it is an early primary family who might not know you well, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, like you said, I teach religion upstairs in the middle school, and I really enjoy doing that. Let's see, did you ask me like the background? Is that what you said?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, let's see. I guess that I started teaching before I had my daughter, several 18 years or 20 years ago. But after I had her, we decided that I would stay home with her instead of working. So I went to school down at Southwestern, down in Georgia Southwestern State University, while my husband and I were stationed down there. And then we stayed down there for a while until, and then I taught for a couple of years social studies in a real middle school. So it was like just 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And we had 300 7th graders in our school. And I taught 7th grade. Yeah, right. So we had 3 teams of 100 7th graders. And I was obviously on one team and taught social studies. And that was a really neat experience, and I really learned a lot teaching there at that school. And I didn't have kids at that time, so I learned a lot about, I don't know, just learned a lot about kids. And then we had my daughter. I decided to stay home, and so that was a really wonderful to be able to stay home with my kids while they were getting bigger. I really, that is a gift. I'll never be sad for having done that. So after Liberty was about 14 months old, we had the boys, and they were twins. And so I got to stay home with them. So I didn't really start back to work until my boys were preschool or kindergarten. I don't really remember. And once they were in school full time, it's not a lot to do, and I'm kind of a doer. So I started substitute teaching in several of the schools. I did a long-term substitute position up at St. Mary of the Knobs. I got to meet some of those people up there, really nice people up there. And then I subbed at some other schools. And then I started working at our school primarily. And I took on a pre-K position with Miss Castleberry when we used to teach upstairs in my classroom now. And so this year, 7th graders were the class we had that year. So that's fun to say. Yeah, that's interesting. And then I worked in the office for a couple of years, and I really enjoyed that. That really is kind of where I feel like I do well at. And then Miss Horton hired me in as strictly religion for a religion teacher. I'm not even sure, 6 years ago maybe. And I've been doing that ever since, which I do enjoy, being in the classroom with the kids very much. I don't know that I'm as good at teaching as I am working in the office, but I do enjoy it probably just as much.
So you were in the Air Force, correct?
Yes, I was. I served 6 years. My husband served 8. And so we got out of the military when we were still in Georgia, and we stayed down and worked down there until we had the boys, and that was a little much. So all of our families from up north, so we came up here a little closer.
So where all did your time in the Air Force take you?
For me,
yeah.
Wow. So I did a couple of places, I did a couple of schools here in the States, and then my first station was in South Korea. So I spent a year in Kunsan Air Base in South Korea, and we had F-16s over there, so fighter jets, and the base was small, and so the flight line was very close to the barracks. And if I remember correctly, the squadron would do night flights once a month. And so like for 1 week a month, they would do all night flights. And so they would just fly all night long. So it's like if you live next to a train track. And so it did that all night. But then it was so cool because you could watch the jets take off and watch the afterburners and watch them take off. It's really pretty cool. So I
Yeah.
spent a year there, came back to the States, and my next station was my last station was down in Warner Robins, Georgia. But from there, I got to travel for a short period to France for a month and Spain for 2 weeks, and might be it as far as like overseas. So
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. So as we mentioned, you have our sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, and I would imagine having that age is just interesting to begin with, and getting them into discussions about theology and religion, faith. I would assume that can be a struggle at times to kind of get them to open up a little bit. What have you found that you can go to that try to get them to be in a place where they can speak freely and not feel weird about doing so?
wow. Well, sometimes people say, well, what do you teach? And I say, I teach middle school, sixth, seventh, eighth grade. And they're, oh, are you serious? It's terrible, that age. But I have to say that, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, it just is. I really kind of relate to that grade level. And so I think that I'm not, so I don't know. I think that what I try to do whenever I'm with them, I try to let them know and to constantly remind them that I don't do this perfect. No one does this perfect. And that we're all continually growing, and that our conception or our idea of what God is and what we believe is going to change over time, as it has for me from as far back as I can remember to 5 years ago to today. And that there's no judgment. Like not to say there's no right or wrong. Obviously there's moral and immoral, but when we talk, I try to remind them that like their feelings are their own. They're not right or wrong. They're just theirs. That I don't know. I just try to like let them understand that that their feelings are valid. That none of us is doing this perfect. That the saints made mistakes too. And we get to learn from them. That I don't think that we have to be uncomfortable or shameful about our mistakes. We have to be able to move past them.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to let them know that they're not any different than any other adult in the building, that their parents probably struggle with these things, or it's difficult sometimes. And I guess too, trying to help them understand that they can have a personal relationship with God and to be able to talk to him like he's their best friend, and we talk a lot because I think repetition is important. We talk a lot about just talking to God, just taking the time to just talk to him. We do obviously teach, theology, and we teach from the book, and we teach from the catechism, and we do those things. But my personal feelings are that that ultimately, when they leave our school, that they have discovered that they can have some level of a relationship with Jesus Christ, with God, that they can continue to take with them when they go to high school, and that the church and our school and our church affords them the opportunity for confession, and that they are able to do that at any time. And that I don't know, I just think that I feel like it's really important for me to express to them that I'm not any different than they are. I'm still growing in my faith and learning. So sorry.
Well, and I think, no, yeah. And one thing that I did want to ask you about too is not only do you talk about it, but you are very active at all middle school levels by incorporating service and getting them out into the community and kind of spreading and sharing their faith in a different way. If you wouldn't mind kind of telling the folks a little bit about how the service program is incorporated into your classes.
Oh, sure. Well, it would be my desire to do it more often, but it's a huge undertaking. And so we just go to serve, we do service once a month. And we just generally we go to places like Silvercrest, Lincoln Hills, like retirement centers. We go to, sometimes when the kids can talk me into it, we go to the Humane Society or to the dog place, the animal place, the animal shelter. That is my least favorite thing that we do, but it is very important because it is definitely part of God's creation. But what else have we done? We go to Hope Southern Indiana. Sometimes we help sort in their, back in their area where they store food, or we clean. Sometimes we've gone to Choices for Women, or they call it something different now. Women's or Choices Resource Center, I think, up on Charlestown Road. We go there. Sometimes we help put together baby bottles for fundraisers. Sometimes we clean. Some other places that we've been. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but we try to go at least once a month. And then twice a year during 40 Days for Life, we go, those that would volunteer to go, it's not required, but those that like to go, we go to the women's clinic over in Louisville and pray at the abortion clinic. And that's a really important part of our, well, it's in our standards, it's very important in the Catholic Church. And so I think it's important for the students to understand and have at least experienced that at one point by the time they leave middle school. And we talk about it a great deal in 8th grade, and they learn a lot about it. So, and my husband, it's so interesting. My husband sent me this this message yesterday, and I thought, and when you asked me this question, I thought this is exactly how I feel. And Mother Teresa, I just think she's such a fabulous example. And I read, you know, a lot of her stuff, and she talks about it in this. Can I read it?
Sure.
Okay. She says, I used to pray that God would feel the hungry or do this or do that. But now I pray that he will guide me to do whatever I'm supposed to do, what I can do. I used to pray for answers, but now I'm praying for strength. I used to believe that prayer changes things, and now I know that prayer changes me, and we change things. And that's Mother Teresa. So, and I just think that's kind of how I see things. I think he has given us these gifts, like we talk about in class with the kids. He's given us these gifts, and he expects us to use them. And so that's a huge part of my life, but it's not for everyone. And when we talk about the kids and the way they can be good stewards, we talk about, like, what is it that you're passionate about? Because not everyone's going to be passionate about the right to life or for, you know, reaching out and helping the indigent or the homeless or whatever. But there is a passion inside of every person that God has put in there for them. And so just find what that is that works for you. And I think that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. What has this last 4 to 5 weeks been like for you as on a couple of different levels, as a teacher trying to stay in contact with your kid, your students, but also as a mom with 3 kids in high school, one being a senior who's missing out on some things. How's Liberty doing? How are your kids doing? And what's it been like trying to stay in touch with your students?
It's a huge order. So I do, which almost all of us upstairs do. I'm sure everyone is doing the same. I try to meet with my students. Well, I do class with them on Mondays. And so I usually see them for about 30, 45 minutes. Generally, I have half or more of my kids that show up for class on Mondays. And then it just depends on the day. On Wednesdays, I host a study hall for every grade level. So they meet at just different times. And the Google Meets, of course. And so I meet with them, and it's just fabulous to see their faces. I just really appreciate being able to see their faces because I miss them immensely. And that's really, I mean, like, and I'm sure any teacher would say that. I mean, that's probably 95% of job satisfaction is being able to see your kids' faces and know what they're thinking, and, you know, not know what they're thinking, but like you can read to them, you know, so you know if they need more help or if they are having a good day or if they need help. And so I've been reading some of their journal entries and some of their responses to some different questions, and it makes me sad. I can't be with them. I can hug their neck. I can't pull them aside for a minute and say, hey, what's going on? And I miss them. So anyway, I love to see their faces, and I get excited whenever they show up for meets. And at home, as far as a teacher, it has been a humongous learning experience for me. Any of my students know, all of my students know that technology is my least favorite thing in school. So I do not go out of my way to learn anything new. So I was way behind the curve whenever this hit. So I have, like everyone else, I'm sure, except Miss Cassidy, I've been just trying to learn and troubleshoot and do something. And then the kids say, well, I'm not seeing this. I'm like, okay, I'll try again. And then I'll go back. So it's been a lot of, if I weren't humbled enough, it's been very humbling to, you know, daily have mistakes that need to be fixed and go back in. But again, I mean, I just let them know, I'm like, I'm really sorry, I'm learning this too, and thank you for being patient with me, and I try to be patient with them. So that's been a real difficult transition for me because I really love this whole thing.
Right.
The boys, I don't see them. They're like in the basement, and they have like their whole little space downstairs, or rooms. They have like a little living room and a bathroom, and they come upstairs to eat. And I just don't see them a lot. And so it's really different because it's not been that way. I know like some high schoolers get like that early on, like, eighth grade, whatever. They just never did. And so I don't know, but they're doing good. And Jacob's been trying to do some soccer stuff. Coach Stingle's been sending them some stuff out. So he's been trying to do that. Josh has been reading a lot, and he's started a new web page. He's very musically inclined. So he's really spent a lot of time working on that. And Liberty, well, she obviously, there's a lot of sadness with, the things that they've been missing, just like the eighth graders missing a lot of the end of year things that were going to be so exciting and just like they've looked forward to since they've gotten there. And so it's very disappointing on that level. I think to some degree she's been very accepting about it. But then I think too, there are times whenever she's fussing about it somewhere else and she's not telling me about it. So since she has a boyfriend, so he came home from college, I don't know, I guess, right after whatever Christmas break, they didn't go back. So since we were already, like inundated with each other, he has been over here often. So he comes over every other day or so and they work out. So we have a small gym in our basement. So they work out. So she's getting healthier and working towards that her college roommate and whatever. So
yeah, I mean our prayers are with all our students, but especially as you mentioned, our eighth graders and our seniors in the community, because you're right, they have been looking forward to so many different things, and I think every school is going to try the best they can to recreate those as best they can, but it's not going to be the same. So
no.
That's unfortunate. But yeah.
No, but Providence has done a really nice job of trying to reach out to, and there's a lot of parents in the background doing some things, and Mr. Hutchins and Mr. Mikowski, who showed up at your run, by the way.
He did.
Have been really great about reaching out to the kids, Mr. Burden also, and I really, really appreciate that, because obviously there's no playbook to go by for this. So
yeah.
So I really appreciated their efforts to try to reach out and to try to bring some goodness to that, I guess.
Good. All right, Ms. Russell, you ready for the quick lightning round questions? These are the fun ones.
Okay.
You gotta do your best on these.
Okay, and you just did lightning, so like no explanation, just answer.
Just answers, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Texting or talking? Which do you prefer?
Talking. Yes, talking.
Did you have a nickname growing up?
My dad called me Pumpkin, but otherwise, no.
Okay. Favorite holiday?
Birthdays, all birthdays.
Birthdays, okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at keeping secrets?
Oh, I am very good at keeping secrets.
All right. Best place you have ever traveled to?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, Puerto Rico on the island of, I forgot the name of it.
That was last summer, right?
It was last summer. It was phenomenal, but I'm going lightning, so I'm just leaving that alone.
It's okay. But you were there for a while. I remember that, yeah.
We were there for like 11 days. It was phenomenal. But I got to go with my daughter, so it was just her and me. It was awesome.
Okay. Cake or pie?
Cake.
Cake. All right. Let's see. Which gender is more complicated, men or women?
I mean, I know the traditional answer would be women, but I think that because men are so simple that we complicate it, women do. So I don't know.
All right. Okay. Has your coffee consumption increased or decreased since we've been in e-learning?
Was this a question submitted? Because that's funny. We are currently doing 2 pots a day now here at our house. Yes.
Okay. All right. Oops, I lost my questions here. Hold on. All right. Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate. Okay. Favorite junk food?
All junk food. No, anything sweet. Candies, cake, ice cream, cookies, all of it.
Okay. Last time you stayed up past 4 a.m.?
Last week.
Last week? All right.
No, Sunday night.
Yeah. Scale of 1 to 10, your karaoke skills would rank where?
I have never karaoke'd ever.
Ooh, all right. Neither have I. So, all right. And last one, always the easy one. What is your middle name?
Danelle.
Danelle. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Miss Russell, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for telling us a little bit more about yourself and answering our silly questions here at the end.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I kind of got a little soapbox there, but
No,
I
it's
do
okay.
enjoy what I do. Thank you.
It's okay. All right. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon.